listening to Staying Wild, the podcast where we ditch burnout and build outrageous success and lives the wild way. I'm Adelaide, the high-performance coach James Bond would secretly hire if pink was his vibe. I've helped over 500 high achievers land promotions, smash personal bests, pivot careers, achieve their full potential, and actually love their lives. Yes, I have. All in under a year. No fluff, just deep mindset work, potent energy, and breakthroughs worth popping champagne over. Now it's time to join me and Wolfie on the wild side with today's episode. Hello. Welcome to the Burnout Escape Protocol Masterclass. If you're watching this on YouTube, I have a very sexy whiteboard. I didn't realize it was quite so difficult to get a whiteboard where I live. So when I am back from my holiday, because I'm about to go on a road trip, there'll be something much nicer behind me. But until then, we have this very classy white sheet, which I use for projecting my films, and whiteboard I usually use for my team workshops when we're outside. Maybe in September, I'll be in a beautiful studio in my log cabin. But for now, it's a bit makeshift. As I say, don't start when everything is perfect. Being ready is a decision. Do not let perfectionism stop you from creating what your soul is calling you to create. All about staying wild over here. The Burnout Escape Protocol, why you are listening. This is 4 strategic steps to reclaim your energy, your sanity, your soul, and fire without sacrificing your success or burning out. I have a download that has inspired this masterclass. So everything I'm going to go through with you today and expand on is in that download, the Burnout Escape Protocol, which you can find in the show notes. So I recommend you go ahead and download it. Just because it's free doesn't mean I'm going to hang you out to dry. You get accompanying emails to guide you and support you through this process, but not in like an annoying way that clogs up your inbox. In those emails is great tips, great strategies, great stories to help inspire, support, and guide you to achieving your goals. This masterclass is for the high achiever who knows hustling harder isn't the answer. You are far too brilliant for that, darling. This masterclass and the PDF is your first step to creating success that feels as good as it looks. Your wild woman is waiting, so let's jump in. You don't need to slow down. You don't need to be much less. Often we're told we're too much, but be too much. I'm hoping we can show you that. The answer isn't to slow down. It isn't to believe your limitations. It's not to reduce your ambition. It's not to quit your job or go on sick leave. It's about stepping into your next level with clarity, purpose, energy, power, and joy. A lot of words in there, but we want all that stuff. In short, as my whiteboard falls down, in short, I'm going to break down for you how to spot burnout before it breaks you down. If you're in burnout, we're going to spot where we are draining ourselves. And I'm going to show you the exact framework my high performers use to step into thriving mode, to step into that success that feels as good as it looks, to help you bounce back and quicker than you think. Let's go while I put my whiteboard back up. Part 1 is busting that burnout myth. You are still tired after trying everything. I have clients coming to me, I've tried meditating, I've tried eating better, I've tried exercising more, and it has helped, but I'm still in burnout. I'm still at this precipice being forced to make a decision or at this fork in the road to quit my job, go on sick leave. And like, I think there is a third option. I can't see it. Can you help? We often think burnout comes from doing too much, from overdoing it. I used to hate those words. Do you think you're overdoing it? Oh, hate those words so much. Burnout doesn't just come from overwork. It comes from misaligned energy, poor boundaries, going against those little whispers coming from your mind, body, and soul, and also playing by these very outdated rules where it's a badge of honor. I just saw a video the other day by an entrepreneur. Here's my day with a toddler and a child waking up at 4:30 and making them breakfast and going to the gym and being in all of these meetings and coming back at 9 o'clock to then go to sleep at 10. Let's not play by these hustle hard till you drop kind of rules where we're sacrificing so much for success. And yes, there are choices to be made, but let's do them with performance, health, happiness, joy, success at the forefront. I've talked about in my other masterclasses, but it's relevant in every single one because I see the challenges people are facing, and we're always looking at creating these surface level changes to fix the problem, whether it's burnout or just not getting the results you want, not being able to achieve your goal, being met with fear. And we're looking at surface level stuff all the time to try and fix these things or trying to solve them. It's like, okay, well, maybe if I meditate every day, I have bubble baths to recharge, I do time blocking. Maybe if I can say no more, it's going to help. Nutrition and weight loss is the one we usually turn to. Ice bathing has now become popular. Inbox zero is another one. And they're just not cutting it anymore. We get into this tug of war where, okay, maybe we can wake up, we can meditate for 5 days a week, 10 days a week. But then something happens and self-care is always the first thing to go when we hit high pressure or high stress situations. Maybe you're able to keep some of these really great habits, but you still feel like you're hanging on by a thread, like you can't breathe. That's because we're not going to the root of the problems, which is identity and beliefs, because it is your brain that is running the show. Everyone thinks our actions that's going to make the biggest difference, but things like pain, for example, is created in the brain. You have no idea how powerful your brain is. I know this, and I discovered the power of the brain because I was bedridden with severe chronic fatigue syndrome I feel like I say this all the time, for years, and I recovered in 3 days by learning the power of your brain. There was a great study done years ago for Tour de France cyclists around doping, and they believed, okay, if the cyclists can't feel their legs from the waist down, then they're going to cycle harder because they don't have muscle fatigue coming into the equation and making them slow down. But when they did the test before and after, a numbing agent was given to them, so numbing their legs from the waist down, they still slowed down at the same rate. This is because your brain is running the show. So you can change all the habits you want, but if you still feel you're coming up against the same blocks, you can't breathe, you're stressed, you still don't feel good enough, you still feel like a failure, it's because the route to creating a version of you that feels whole, that feels grounded, that can go, I know who I am, I know my values, I know my value, I know my worth, it stems from your beliefs and your identities. And that's where the solution to burnout also resides. If you are able to create successful change by changing the habits, that's amazing, that's great. But let's create change in a different and more impactful, easier and faster way that will create long-term transformation. Your mission is to stop burning out. And also, I think as a collective, our mission is to stop accepting things like burnout, things like hustling hard, sacrificing our joy, sacrificing versions of ourselves for our career, for money, for success. We want to start escaping it with precision, with purpose, with deliberate action. Because those things I just mentioned, and maybe the shadow part of yourselves, the things you feel ashamed about, they don't have to be part of your reality anymore. So what is the Burnout Escape Protocol? Having just banged on about the importance of the brain, beliefs and identities, part 1 of the protocol is identifying your power moves. So your high impact moves that will help you to embody and step into that version of you who has energy, clarity, and joy again. These moves can be, okay, I need to identify and remove this belief that the harder I work, the more successful I'll be. But also power moves can be, I need to listen more brilliantly. This was one of my clients from years ago had this one power move. I need to listen more brilliantly. I need to step into my power. It was incredible. Within 3 months, he was headhunted by PwC. So he went and told his boss's boss, hey, I've been headhunted. I'm thinking of moving. And they're like, wait, we can't have you leave. You've just turned this entire team around in 3 months. You have to stay. Got into an incredible salary battle, decided to stay. Some months later, PwC came back and were like, we have to have you. Basically, name your price. This can seem such a simple thing, naming your power moves, your 1 to 6 power moves, that will help you embody that version of you who's living their dream life. Don't underestimate this power and this impact it can have. You're going to get crystal clear on the core skills and habits that fuel your career growth. These are the non-negotiables, the ones that really push the needle. I see a lot of leaders being busy, which leads to the burnout and contributes to that. We're looking at what are the key actions and mindset strategies that impact and really upgrade your capabilities, skills, the way you lead and go after your career goals. That will help take you from stuck to savage success and ultimate well-being. I want you to choose 3 to 8 high-performance power moves. Past mission players have chosen things like listening brilliantly, maintaining healthy boundaries, and then being specific with what they are. Saying no to things that don't fall within my job description, for example. Laser-focused scheduling, powerful routines, empowering communication, mind, body, and soul nourishing nutrition, visibility, strategic networking. These are just to give you ideas. So choose your 6 to 8 power moves and write them down if you can, and it's safe to do so. Otherwise, make a mental list in your head and come back to this later. But carry on listening to the podcast so you get an idea of what the exercise is about. So then when you come to go through the PDF, if you're not doing that already, you can just dive straight in and you have got this. Step 2 is precision performance analysis. We're going to rate your current performance for each of your power moves. We're going to use a simple 0 to 10 scale. For those listening, I am now drawing a circle, and in that circle is 0. For each power move, you want to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you are performing it in the best way possible, 0 being you're not performing it in the best way possible. This will look a bit like a bicycle wheel with the spokes coming off it. So we then have the circle split up into 3 to 8 power moves, so into 3 to 8 triangles. Then you just want to rate each power move out of 10. So maybe some is an 8, maybe some is a 3, some is a 5. Once you've rated each of your core skills, capabilities, strategies, so your power moves, you then want to join your circle up. Now your circle is going to look a little bit messy, but this is a good thing. We are gathering intel for our mission to escape burnout. Once you've drawn your circle and you have an idea of how well you are performing each of these power moves, I want you to take a bit of time to reflect. Ask yourself, what's one area am I really crushing? What one area am I not performing so well in? And it's time to get real and honest with ourselves, but not in like an icky, judgy, critical way, which can often be our default, but just to look at it as if we're James Bond and we're looking at our mission and going, okay, where are we currently sitting? What intel do we have? What's doing really well? Okay, what's not doing so well? Because this information is going to help us in step 4. Step 3 is the time allocation check. This will deliver us the truth of where we're really spending our time. Because if we're spending our time in an area we're already performing incredibly well in, and that area where maybe we should be performing better, we don't spend much time there, then we need to start reallocating our resources. And until we visually see it, it can be quite difficult to see the pattern that is producing our results, whether it's burnout or just dissatisfaction in our performance. So exactly the same for step 3, You draw your wheel, you divide it up into the same power moves, the same triangles, and then rate it on a scale of 0 to 10. 10 being I'm spending the most time, 0 being I'm spending the least time. These two steps are really important because often burnout isn't about having too much on our plate, although feelings of overwhelm can come with burnout. It's often because we have the wrong things on our plate and maybe too much of them. So these exercises deliver us real honest truth about where we need to spend our time and where can we start saying no, delegating, and maybe even just removing them from our task list. Often I see people having things on their list that actually is, dare I say, irrelevant to the job at hand. What we want to start doing, which we come to in step 4, is align your time with your power moves and how you perform each one. You can think of this as your reality check, the beginning of your burnout rebellion strategy. Before we move on to step 4, I have some reflection questions for you here as well. Where are you over-investing your time? Maybe with little return on investment. It might be that once you hit maybe a 6 or an 8 out of 10, after that, actually we don't get much more results back in that area. So it's important to start to look at where am I spending a bit too much time and not getting those big results back. The other question is, where am I spending the least amount of time that actually deserves more? Step 4 is our clarity checkpoint. In the PDF download, I have about 12 questions, which takes you in bite-sized pieces and step by step through understanding our results from step 2 and 3. It helps us to map out, what do I need to move forward with? What can I actually remove? Or what do I need to stop doing, say no to, delegate to help me move forward in a more sustainable, energizing, and joyful way? In this section, we're going to create your next level self, one micro shift at a time. It's nice to have your wheels next to each other so you can start to map the gap between where you are now and where you want to be. What can be nice to reflect on is what 1 to 3 behaviors, tasks, or actions are draining me. What can be cut? And if you can't cut them out straight away, maybe you need to delegate something, but it's just not possible right now, is thinking, how can I start putting the necessary things in place so then actually I can delegate this? So maybe it's actually spending time with one of your team members to bring them up to speed so then they can take on this responsibility. The next thing you want to look at is, where do you need to, which we've already reflected on, what 1 to 3 power moves do you need to spend more time on, and what 1 to 3 power moves can you actually spend less time on. As a bonus, you also want to think about, okay, this is my plan, this is how I'm moving forward to get out of burnout. What one thing may come up that I might self-sabotage on? And then the next question is, how can I sidestep that or prevent it from even happening? One of my favorite studies, and I may have spoken about this before in a different episode, but I love this study so much, and they look at those who have the worst recoveries from hip replacements and what's the strongest strategy to get them having a better recovery. They discovered that if the person recovering from the hip replacement was aware of the challenge that would make them self-sabotage and not do the appropriate recovery, such as walking, what was their plan to move through that resistance? One guy was like, okay, I need to walk to the bus stop every day to pick up my wife from work, and if I feel like I don't want to, if the pain's there and I'm like, oh, I just want to sit down and give up, they remembered the smile on their wife's face and how happy they'll be when they pick them up from the bus stop. And it was that joy of their wife that made them continue. And you want to bring your own version into your challenge. So if you know that if you have chocolate in your house and you can't just have one piece, you have to have the whole bar, and then you don't buy the chocolate. We want to do something like this, but in your career. So as a leader or when you're going into work, is there something that will trip you up that happens in that environment? And what can you do to already prepare for that so you already have the strategy at hand to move through that fear or resistance? Maybe it's having a say no more sticker on your computer or having a delegate sticker on your computer. So it's at the forefront of your mind that this has to happen. This is a non-negotiable. You wouldn't go to the Arctic in a bikini in the winter. So don't take on your goals without first doing the right preparation and gearing up in the right way. That's exactly what the Burnout Escape Protocol does. It helps you to spot, where do I need to perform better? What are actually the things that are going to move the needles? Where do I need to spend my time? How can I start implementing these new learnings and insights? If you want a very clear map and action plan, then do download the Escape the Burnout Protocol, which is in the show notes below. As we now wrap up, I just want to say that it is really about stepping into the next level version of yourself. It's about upgrading your mindset so you can live your dream life. The version of you already experiencing joy, clarity, success without hustling till you drop, without missing out on your kids' stuff, without missing out on the things that bring you joy like your hobbies, sacrificing your sanity, your health. You can have it all, contrary to what you hear on social media. And I will say that often my clients come to me with hopes, goals, and dreams. Every single time we surpass them, because when they come to me, they come with a version of themselves that can only dream and hope of so much. When we start working together, I can help them see a much bigger picture. And then my clients text me, oh my gosh, I didn't know I could lead in this way, or I didn't know it was possible to help the company restructure or to be the CEO or to do archery while leading. I didn't know it was possible for me to get a £36,000 pay rise within 12 months, to land my dream job in the dream location, to actually feel lighter. Now I have healed childhood trauma, and now I can experience even greater joy and success. Allow yourself to be surprised with the results you can experience by implementing these very simple mindset tools and strategies. If you've watched my earlier masterclasses, then do remember how a 1% improvement every day equals 3,778% transformation over 1 year. So just by changing one thought, one strategy, one little behavior can have a massive ripple effect in your life. Don't underestimate these micro changes and micro shifts in healing your health and in creating a career that is wildly successful. I invite you to go deeper. Download my Escape the Burnout Protocol. The link is in the show notes. If you enjoy that and you want to go even deeper, you want to achieve a career breakthrough in just 35 days, then you can buy my Rise of the Wild Woman online self-study program for just 990 kroner, or about £69 for my British friends. And I will take you step by step through, and we dive deeper into these kind of concepts to help you achieve a career goal in 35 days. If you're like, actually Adelaide, I like what you're saying, I'm vibing with you. If you're a leader who knows they are meant for more success, more freedom, more joy, more clarity, you know you have more power and impact within you, then my VIP one-to-one coaching may be the ticket for you. Find that link in the show notes too. Any questions from this masterclass, comment below or slide into my DMs and I will answer them live on the bonus world episode every Thursday. Now over to my special guest, who I know you're going to love. I am so excited to introduce you to my very wild, very special guest, Squash
Falconer. She is a keynote speaker, inspiring and motivating all of her audience members to be more wild. She's just super cool, known her for years. She has summited Everest, the first British woman to paraglide from the top of Mont Blanc, and the world's highest bumboarder or sledder. So, I mean, freaking awesome. You are going to love this conversation. It is so inspiring, energizing, and she's just such a badass. I know you're going to love her. Hello, Squash. Welcome to the podcast. It is so wonderful to have you.
Hi, Adelaide. It's lovely to be here.
We've known each other for quite some time, so we're just going to dive straight in. I would love to know, when did you start following your inner wild, your inner true self?
Oh, that's a brilliant question. To be honest, I can't remember when I didn't. I grew up on a farm, so I was quite kind of wild and free from a young age. And I think I liked leaping out of barns on rope swings. I was fortunate enough, we had motorbikes on the farm, so I'd ride the motorbikes. And I think I just had the freedom and confidence to just do what I wanted when I wanted from quite an early age. So yeah, as long as I can remember.
That's really interesting because a lot of my listeners, and I know clients, you can start with that freedom. As a child, you have it. But then once you start kind of, I was going to say mainstreaming, but that sounds a bit strange. But when you start adulting, I guess.
Yeah, growing up.
You can lose that. But how did you keep that inner freedom and wild for yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think as school got a bit more serious through senior school, picking my GCSEs and A levels, I did, science-based stuff, and I was on track to go to veterinary school. And I think everything got a bit tamer then. But then at the age of 17, halfway through my A levels, I realized that I absolutely did not want to go to vet school. My original dream had been to be a farmer, and then I'd kind of been steered towards veterinary. And I started doing work experience in small animal practices, and I realized, oh, this isn't for me. That's okay though, because I'll do large animal. I did some large animal work experience in a vet's when I was 17. And it very quickly became apparent that it was all about the economics of it and the finance side. And it wasn't really about saving the animals. We went to visit this cow. I can still remember it to this day. And she had a problem with her heart. And the vet just said, it's not worth saving her. And they had her slaughtered. And I just thought, this isn't what I want to do. And obviously I applied to vet schools. I was doing my A levels. I was on track for it. So all of a sudden, everything kind of fell away from me. And fortunately, one of my best friends at school, she was quite wild, and she wasn't doing her A levels. She'd gone to college, and she just wanted to get away. She talked about ski seasons, and I chatted to her, and she said, I just want to do a ski season. I said, let's both go and do a ski season. So we went and did a ski season. So I kind of got tamed a little bit. And then at 18, went and did my first ski season, had an introduction to the mountains, met people that, from all different walks of life, that introduced me to endurance sports and different types of event work. So from there, everything just kicked off, and I had found this freedom and this life that I didn't even know existed. So I was very lucky, really, in that sense. And my work I never got into the 9 to 5.
That's so interesting. So really being surrounded by inspiring and uplifting and kind of expansive people helped you to then reopen up that wildness.
Yeah, and I saw that there was a different way. Most of my friends were going to university, and for a while I felt bad that I wasn't, but I just could not. It just didn't sit with me to go to university without a purpose. Like, I could absolutely get on board if I was going to be a vet, but there was people saying just do a degree for the sake of doing one. You'll always have it and it's a great thing to do, but I wasn't into drinking and partying. And I just thought this is not for me. And I originally, though, I was taking a gap year. So I kind of had a get out of jail free card. I was going to come back to it, but as soon as I got out and did the ski season and realized what else was out there, I wasn't coming back to university unless I saw a course that would directly lead me to something. But to be honest, I just never looked back. The opportunity, I think I kept stepping forward into things, and the opportunities kept appearing, and I kept taking them. And I think at the age I was, there was no responsibility. I wasn't in a relationship. I didn't have a family. So I was very free. And I learned during my ski season that I didn't need very much. I didn't earn very much money. We earned like 70 euros a week, I think. It was tiny because our accommodation and food was taken care of. And life didn't cost me much because I didn't drink or smoke. And I saved a lot of that money. So even though I was only earning a tiny bit, I still managed to save it. And I realized that on very little, I could have this incredible life.
It's really cool to have that realization so young, and to also value the moments of joy and not allow yourself to be taken into misalignment. That's really like, that's just so cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was just so much fun, the laughing and the ridiculousness, it was just incredible. And I remember saying to my best friend, like, we need to really remember this. We've got nothing, but we've got everything. Like, we live like millionaires. We live in the mountains, we ski every day, we're surrounded by incredible people, and we just laugh and have so much fun. And I've kind of always reminded myself of that.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So then how did you go from just living your best life in the mountains to then becoming a world record holder?
It flowed quite naturally. I mean, I could have never guessed it ahead of it, but I think the opportunities presented themselves, and I kept taking them. Through the ski seasons I did, I met other people that were doing endurance adventure sports, and they got me involved in races that I didn't think I could do, but they said to me, yeah, of course you can do it. So I said yes and flippantly did it. And one race led to another race to another. And I realized that I could do these things, and I enjoyed it. So I started doing the endurance races, which kind of made me feel more like a sports person, because at school, although I did sport, it wasn't an identity that I had. I was not the best at anything. I wasn't the quickest, fastest, or anything like that. But all of a sudden I kind of got into these sports and was doing quite well. And then it was that same group of friends who did a mountaineering expedition, and I went with them, and we took a video camera, and one of the girls on the trip was a journalist, and she gave us all a kind of quick course in how to use the camera and present in front of it. And after that trip, we made a short film, and the film did really well at the Kendal Film Festival. I think it won a People's Choice Award or something, and it was a runner-up in something else, and it ended up doing this tour. And people were saying to me, Squash, you can clearly know what you're doing behind the camera, but you're kind of quite good in front of it as well. And it wasn't just like friends or family, because I think when friends and family say that to you, you take it with a bit of a pinch of salt. Like, of course, your parents are going to say you're great at something. But when other people that had no vested interest in me were saying it, I kind of thought, oh, maybe there's something I could do with this. But I kind of didn't know what. But that seed had sort of been planted in my mind. So over the next sort of 2, 3, 4 years, I was doing more expeditions with my friends. I was doing ski seasons. I was doing event work. It was all kind of ticking along. And then the opportunities started to come, because we were an all-female team on this mountain. So what I was learning as well was, to get the media hook, you just needed a point of difference. So I was kind of on the lookout for a point of difference. And I learned to paraglide. Again, I was working in a bar. A guy came in. He had a place in Annecy. He had a bed and breakfast, and I'd made some comment that I'd love to learn to paraglide. And he said, well, if you come and work in my place in exchange for work, I'll teach you to paraglide. So I had this incredible summer in Annecy learning to paraglide. And I'd had this dream when I was younger that I wanted to pass my motorbike test, because I'd ridden motorbikes on the farm. So one summer I just had enough money and I got my act together and I passed my motorbike test. And when I'd started climbing mountains, I'd had this dream to climb Mont Blanc, because it was one of the mountains that I could see from where we were living when I did my first ski season. And then just through a conversation with another friend, we were talking about different things we wanted to do. And I was like, of all the expeditions I'd done, I'd got these 3 dreams, and it was to ride a motorbike from England to the south of France, to climb Mont Blanc. And then another dream was to fly my paraglider off a high mountain. And he kind of flippantly said to me, well, Squash, just put it all together in one trip and do it. And I was like, yeah, I could do that. So with my experience with a video camera and everything, and understanding a little bit how the media worked, I started to put a project together. And I didn't get financial sponsorship, but that didn't matter, because it didn't really cost me very much money. But what I did get was, I got BMW behind me lending me the motorbike to do it. The paragliders lent me the lightweight paraglider, and the BBC lent me a video camera to film it. So I went off to do this trip. Against all the odds, I'd managed it. And my partner, Erwin, who I climbed with, said to me after we'd done it, he said, Squash, I think you're the first British woman to successfully fly from the top of the mountain. And it wasn't about chasing the records for me, but because he'd said it, I was like, oh yeah, that's quite cool. And he said, you should get that recognised. And I was like, yeah, okay. But again, I didn't really push it, but he did. And he got the British Aero Club to recognise it. So there was this presentation, I got the certificate. And because I got the footage, and because I'd got this first British female, the BBC obviously were chatting to me about what I'd done, and they said, well, can we buy the footage off you and make a program about you? So I was like, yes. So they paid me for the footage. They edited a program. So I had, it was a regional program, but it went out to several regions in the UK. So all of a sudden I'd got the accolade of like this BBC program being made about me. And that was when I was like, okay, this is how I get sponsorship. This is how I do these things. So I was still doing my event work and my ski seasons and things and just getting by. But I'd also learned that I could get a story, get sponsorship, and put bigger trips together. And it was doing, see, Everest had never been on my radar at all. I enjoyed the mountain expeditions, but I used to meet people that, like, ever since they'd seen the picture of the mountain when they were 6, they had this dream to climb it. That wasn't really me. I was all about doing trips with my friends to mountains that sounded interesting. And in all honesty, Adelaide, I think Everest was something that other people did. I still didn't see myself as that strong athlete or person that was capable of it. And in 2008, before I climbed Mont Blanc and done the trip I just told you about, I'd climbed Chaoya, which is an 8,000-meter peak. And I'd taken, as a last-minute joke, one of my friends had put a bum board in my hand. So I'd taken this little pink plastic sledge, and I became the world's highest ever bum boarder. And it was just, it was just a joke. But the company that I was climbing with, in order to afford the trip, they were letting me co-lead trips and work with them so that I could afford it. And it was the guy that ran that trip that said to me after the summit, he said, Squash, you're strong enough to climb Mount Everest. And at the time, I just kind of shyly smiled and said, thank you, inwardly thinking, yeah, no way. But again, it just planted this seed. And I think after doing the Mont Blanc trip and realizing that you can make these things happen, and I could get sponsorship for things, I was like, well, maybe I could climb Everest and maybe I could make it happen. Because obviously, on top of believing that you can even do it, is the huge fee of it. So I got to work thinking, right, I'm gonna try and do Mount Everest. And I put together a plan, and I needed the sponsorship and everything, and I did quite well on it. But when it came to it, I was £20,000 short. And I just thought to myself, do you know what? I was going to turn 30 that year, and I thought, this is my big shot. This is my opportunity to do it. Like I didn't want to be necessarily doing that kind of thing as I got older, just because I think we lose our peak condition, and it's quite an exposing and dangerous thing to do. And I imagined that if I had been in a relationship with a family, it wouldn't have been the sort of thing I wanted to do. I know a lot of mountaineers carry on doing that thing, but for me, it was a risk to take while I was single, no responsibility. And I thought, now's my shot. And I thought, I didn't go to university. I've never been in debt, but I decided to take a loan out. But 2 reasons really, so that I could do it, but also so that it would give me a purpose when I got back. I had to repay that loan. And that meant that I had to get serious in terms of a career, because I had to either figure out how to make this adventure stuff a career, or I had to get 9 to 5, if you like. So obviously summiting the mountain was incredible. I was attempting to be the first woman in the world to fly off the top, which didn't happen because the weather was bad. So I didn't achieve all my goals, but I still summited Mount Everest. And getting back, what that had done was it really opened the door on a speaking career, because although I'd done some pretty cool things before that, it was really Everest that, got people's attention. Everyone knew what Everest was, and I got asked to do talks, and I thought, this is a way I can make money. And it took me just over 3 years, I think, but I paid every penny back, and yeah, just haven't looked back since.
That's incredible. I have so many questions now. I didn't realize you have 2 records then.
Yeah, I'm the world's highest ever bum boarder. I was the first British woman to fly off the summit of Mont Blanc. At the time, it doesn't stand now, but I got the longest distance travelled on elliptical bicycle. I did a 3,000 kilometre journey on an elliptical bicycle back in 2013, I think, but that's been beaten since.
Yeah.
I mean, they're daft, aren't they? They're like, part of me is a bit like, oh, it's just ridiculous. I mean, it's fun. But yeah, there are a few things there.
That's really cool. And I'm glad you mentioned fun, because when you were talking, one of the things that came up was you were saying that, the records and actually the summits wasn't really it wasn't what it was about. So for you,
I mean, for sure, like it's a bonus, isn't it? And it's a goal. Yeah. Like they always talk about mountains. The goal is to reach the summit, get back down safely, and be in the best physical and mental and emotional condition you can be in. And I kind of added that last bit because I was doing a talk on high performance, and I realized that actually when I did my early mountains, I achieved my goal of getting there and back, but I came back from Aconcagua in shocking shape. Like I'd really run myself into the ground. And as I did bigger and arguably much harder and higher mountains, I learned how to look after myself on the mountain, and I came back in good condition. And I realized, part of my goal is to not destroy myself on these adventures. So yeah, I think it's great to have a goal, and I think you use that as your kind of North Star, and you hold it lightly in your hand like you'd perhaps hold sand, so it doesn't all squeeze through. But actually, the best part about all of this is the journey, and there's no end point. I used to think, when I got to the top of the mountain, that's it. Like I reached the summit of Mount Everest, but that wasn't it at all. I still had to get back down. You still have to do life. Like it actually never, ever ends. And that's beauty of it as well.
I absolutely love that. If we could wrap it up in a package and put a bow on it, I think that's one of the most important lessons, because I'm sure as you see in your work and what I see observing people and in the coaching world as well with clients, is we think that the peak, I see people, they just want to go for the top no matter the weather, no matter if they're miserable, and they don't often think, well, what happens when I come down? And you see it with those going for records as well. But I'm more like you. It's I want to reach the top. It's a bonus if I get there, but I want to come down still in good shape, not completely and utterly battered.
Yeah, and I think we do it at work, don't we? We have a project. There's an end point, or when this project's done, when that's done, and we get to that end point, but that isn't the end. And I think it took me quite a long time to realize this, and I'd say it's only in more recent times that I've embraced it. And it's through a fantastic documentary I watched that it was articulated brilliantly. It's a guy called Stutz, a psychologist, and he said there are 3 certainties in life: pain, uncertainty, and the hard work never stops. And it really resonated with me. And I just think it's the best thing I've ever heard, because for me, it answered so many questions and made sense of everything and allowed me to just keep moving forward and stop looking for this end point in whatever it was. I was always trying to get to the next thing. But actually, if we embrace the pain and the uncertainty and just that's a given, you just accept it and you work through it, that's great. But the hard work never stops. And I think for me, I really needed to embrace that, because hard work can mean in the literal sense of climbing the mountain, but it can mean in the mental, emotional sense as well of your when you get back. I think when we're at work and when we're doing projects, I'd very much give my all and then be exhausted. And actually, it's about pacing ourselves through everything. I want to have a career and a lifetime's work in speaking and coaching. So I need to just keep myself well for that the whole time. I don't just want to burn out in a couple of months. I want to keep going for years doing that and improve. So for me, yeah, those 3 things, I just thought what a great way to articulate it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it's so relatable as well. As you said, in our day-to-day, we just work hard. Maybe we sacrifice actually our joy as well. And then maybe we party too hard or adventure too hard. And then you get caught in that cycle and kind of forget actually you need to rest for that, as you said, longevity.
And I think sometimes, we tend to, a lot of my friends, they live for the weekend. And I think that's it's such a shame. So I do a lot of the work that I'm sort of doing now. It's quite hard work, and it does involve sitting at a desk behind a computer, traveling for work, that kind of thing, in terms of the commute side of it. But actually, if you can embrace the hard and the difficult of that and find a way to enjoy it and pace yourself through it, then you're not living for the weekend. My goal is to live for each day, whether I'm working or playing.
Oh, I love that again. That was such a good quote. I'm completely with you. And that's what I remind myself, is that we are really living for each day. And I think having just come out of the recovery of the PMDD, it's really reinforced that I would like to enjoy every day. And that does include, as you said, you have to accept that there's going to be pain, uncertainty, and you have to work hard, but you can still live and really enjoy your day.
And I think something that you'll appreciate too is the thing about the hard work never stops. I think sometimes as a coach, you treat things or your illnesses, you go through it, you get over it, and you're on the other side. Or perhaps you've had the goal in the gym or a weight loss goal or something, and you reach it, but then you just fall off again and you're back in the cycle. And actually what I've started to realize is it's an ongoing process. There is no end point to this. If I've got a fitness goal, the only way to maintain that goal is to keep working towards it. The hard work never stops. And I think in the past, I've been very guilty of like reaching a speed or a time with a certain hike or a run or something, or a weight loss goal. And then I get to that point and I let it all go again. And that's the mistake I'm making. The hard work never actually stops. So it's, yes, reaching the goal, but it's maintaining the goal. That's the secret.
Yeah, that's so true. I just had to talk about discipline actually, because I've not really had a goal, which has been completely wonderful apart from to have fun in life, which is a good goal to have. But a bit like what we're now saying is like, oh, now I need to actually ground that in the foundations of discipline again. But then think of it as like discipline gives you the freedom and gives you the life you want to live too.
Yeah, totally. I think discipline's really important. Discipline totally gives you the freedom. I read something very recently as well, and it put it beautifully. It was talking about when we do the hard thing, it gives us a good result. So if I choose to go to the gym this morning and not perhaps eat a donut for breakfast, in the long term, it gives me the benefit. But if I choose to not go to the gym and eat the donut, it gives me the satisfaction in the moment, but in the long term, it doesn't. So it's about delayed gratification, isn't it, as well? And I think
Yes.
reminding myself of that, like the short-term pleasure for the long-term gain, and however you want to frame that. Like it's constantly a mind game and a reframing thing for me. I'm always on it, I'm forever falling off the wagon, eating the wagon, and then getting back on the wagon.
It's really funny you just said that phrase, short-term pleasure, long-term gain, because I was literally in that situation last Thursday and I had said that phrase to myself, like that exact terms. And I was like, oh, if I do this thing, which I really, really wanted to do, I was like, if I do that, okay, I'm going to get pleasure for like the next hour. But I knew that it would then like what I really wanted, you'd kind of push it away for that short term thing. So I held out, but it was painful.
Yeah, but it's worth it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think discipline is it's great to build habits. It's great to have the discipline. And I think just understanding that it's not always going to be there. I'm incredibly disciplined sometimes and incredibly not other times. And it's about giving ourselves the break and allowing ourselves the grace and knowing the things or the people that will get you back on track is a great tool to have as well.
I completely agree. Before we start wrapping up and I ask you the final question, I'm really intrigued because I guess when you did Everest to how people do Everest now is quite different.
So, in some ways, yes.
Because you can tell me I'm completely wrong because this is just what I've been hearing, kind of what I've been thinking, is doing a peak like Cho Yu, where it's less popular and less tourismized. That's not a word, but like less touristy.
Less commercial, I guess.
Thank you. Commercial was the word I was looking for. Is it more challenging than doing Everest, or is Everest still one of the hardest things you've ever done?
I mean, I think just because Everest is the highest, it's the hardest. So every meter you gained is not the same level of difficulty harder. It gets exponentially harder.
Really?
So 8,500 and 8,600 is not the same as 8,400 or 8,500. It is much harder. So those final few meters are much harder. But the way the expeditions run now, I mean, people are still doing Everest in a similar style to the way I did it. Obviously, I did it in 2011, 14 years ago. So equipment's moved on. You've got the hypoxic tents. I mean, even this week, there are people there's a group that are attempting to do it in 7 days because they've done all the kind of pre-training beforehand. So people are doing it quicker, which I don't necessarily think is better, but I guess, it's an interesting option. And if it works, great for those people that want to do it like that. I think when you're actually on a mountain like Everest, because it's Everest and it's got the kind of the fanfare of it and the kind of commercial side, it's busier. So in some ways that makes it harder. In some ways that makes it nicer because there's there's more comfort along the way, perhaps, with the tea houses and the facilities, if you like, at base camp. I mean, I use that term very loosely because they're not exactly facilities like we'd call them now. But I think there's pros and cons. I mean, I love Chow Oyu. It was the most incredible mountain. There was less people. I was able to just kind of, you get really close to your team. You do feel far removed. So to me, I think Everest was incredible because it was such an amazing experience, and it's Everest, and I loved that trip. But for sure, I had some really special other trips that were smaller, less commercial. And now I would probably look for an expedition that was less commercial, because I think there's something just a bit more special, and you can just tune more into yourself and have a deeper relationship with the smaller team around you. I guess it depends what you want. So I'm not bashing Everest for being commercial. It's the highest mountain in the world. Of course it is. And I love that mountain. And I don't think, as somebody who's done it, I would never want to take that opportunity away from somebody else. So of course it's getting busier, but who am I to say somebody else can't or shouldn't be doing it? I think it's a really tricky issue that is there, and I don't know the answer to it. But yeah, I mean, obviously Mont Blanc was a really special trip because it was 3 dreams that I had rolled into one, who I did with an incredible partner. And Chao Oyu was just, yeah, it was super special because it was that mountain that really showed me who I could be in an extreme environment, physically, mentally, emotionally.
Amazing. So for those who are listening, who would like to follow their wild more, do you have any advice for them?
Yes. If you are asking me how to do something, I haven't got the answers for you. And I only can tell you my story retrospectively because I didn't know how it was going to work out, obviously, and I couldn't have foreseen what was coming. So I think the best advice I can give people is to show up as your best self every day. Bring your best self to everything. Like bring your, I did a talk this morning actually, and I said, how we do anything is how we do everything. And I like to think that I bring enthusiasm, energy, and joy to every situation. So be aware of how you want to do anything, because that is how you do everything. Be open to the opportunities, have a goal, hold it lightly, don't get attached to the how, but believe in the magic. Like opportunities will present themselves when you put something out there and decide with all your heart and passion that you want it. Like the universe works in really mysterious ways. Believe in the magic. Like people will appear in front of you, opportunities will appear, and because you're tuned into that, you'll just notice it more. And just don't give up. Like sometimes dreams take years and years to realize, and that's okay. And also just like remind yourself to enjoy the journey on the way.
Oh, I can see why you're a keynote speaker. That was absolutely beautifully said. If someone is listening to this and they're like, oh, I would love to have you as a keynote speaker, or maybe I would like to work with you, how can they go about and do that?
Thank you for that. Yeah, I can be contacted lots of different ways: Instagram, Facebook. I've got a website. It's all at Squash Falconer. My website's www.squashfalconer.com, and the falcon is spelt like a bird. So falcon, if you think of flying with my paragliding, Falconer, and squash you can probably remember quite well. You can contact me in any of those ways, and I love giving talks and speaking. So please do contact me about that or any mindset and high performance coaching work.
Amazing. And I'm going to put all the links in the show notes below, so you can go check out Squash there and follow her. And I recommend, if you are looking for a speaker, definitely contact Squash. She's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. This was such a wonderful conversation and just so many key insights in there. So I thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Adelaide. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And I think, I would like to plug you as well, because obviously Adelaide is a coach and she's brilliant. And I've used her as a coach, and I can highly recommend you.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so kind. Well, I wish you the very best of days, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Adelaide.
Thank you so much for listening to Staying Wild with me, your host, performance mindset coach Adelaide Goodeve, and my special guest, keynote speaker and world record holder, Squash Falconer. If you want to connect with us, follow us, all of those links are in the show notes. Do download the Escape the Burnout Protocol PDF. That link is also in the show notes below. Please rate, subscribe, review, do all that jazz. I would love you so much for that. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay wild.